Welcome friends, welcome back to the kitchen, welcome back to Sunday morning in the old cookbook show. Now, there are a lot of the old cookbook show recipes that I just randomly pull a book off the shelf, I take a look inside, I find a recipe that I'm interested in doing, I come out here and I do it. I don't really do a whole lot of research. We just open the book and we explore it together. I find that really exciting. Not really knowing where we're going, just kind of making something and dealing with whatever happens. There are other recipes where I do a really big deep dive into the history of a recipe and how the recipes have evolved and take a look at, what all of the variations are through time. Today's recipe is neither of those things. I think where I'm going with that is I've been over the last, almost a year, it seems like almost a year, been researching pecan pie, doing a deep dive, researching recipes going back into the mid to early 1800s, researching all of the variations along the way, researching the evolution of just the pecan itself, which I already knew a little bit of. My background in forestry, the domestication of trees was one of those things that we learned a lot about, and pecans were touched on. And through that process, I have reworked pretty much the entire system of how I deal with my cookbooks. Through this process, I have picked every American cookbook that I own off of the shelf, flipped through it looking for pecan recipes, pecan pie specifically, but pecan recipes in general, and then reevaluated the book and put it back on the shelf in a new manner, reorganized completely based on this project. And through this, I've come across a bunch of pecan recipes, and that's what we're doing today. We're not making pecan pie today. I don't know if I'll ever do the pecan pie recipe video, mostly because what I've found through looking through my books and a year of researching through newspaper databases and magazine databases, all kinds of online places where you can search and look through PDFs, that there is no reality or truth to the story about pecan pie. So much mythology that I don't think I could break through it. But I might try. I might still try. I might still get out here and try. But through all of this, I came across this recipe for pecan bars. This is from As You Like It, Old Philadelphia Recipes, compiled by the Four Counties Garden Club of Philadelphia, published in 1934. We've done a recipe out of this before. This is a great book. It's a community cookbook. People who belong to the garden club have submitted their recipes. Some people have submitted more recipes than others. As you can see on this page, Mrs. Walter S. Thomson has submitted 3 of the recipes on this page. So the first step was to figure out what 1 package of old-fashioned brown sugar in 1934 Philadelphia was, or what it weighed. And I kind of came to the conclusion, based on the number of eggs and the amount of flour and nuts, that we were probably looking at a 1-pound box of brown sugar, which roughly equates to 2 cups of packed brown sugar. Supposed to mix that with eggs, and then in a double boiler, cook until they look like boiled custard. Now, my double boiler isn't big enough, so a bowl over a pot of barely simmering water, and we'll keep stirring this till it looks like a custard. That's going to take just a little bit to cook, so I'm going to leave it be. I'm going to deal with the flour. I've got flour, salt, and baking powder. And so we'll mix that together. That's good. Now the instruction is a little bit difficult to understand because I've never done this before. It says, until thick like a boiled custard. So it started out pretty thick because it was eggs and brown sugar. It started out pretty thick. As it warmed up, it got thinner. Definitely got thinner. Then I started to notice that the grittiness from the brown sugar was disappearing as the sugar was melting into the eggs or becoming liquid with the eggs. And now it's starting to thicken up again. And I guess the critical point is, how far is far enough? How far is too far? Can you go too far? Can you take it not far enough? Am I going to be impatient and take it off too soon, which is often, I am a fairly impatient person. Often what I do is just take stuff out too quickly. I don't know what to do. I think I'm close, though. I really do think I'm close. Okay, I'm calling it. I'm going to say that's good. So we pull this off. Now we mix in the flour. So a little bit of flour, a little bit of mixing. Okay, that's the last of the flour mixed in. Pecans, of course, and vanilla. So, oh, I'm supposed to put the salt in separately. I mix the salt with the flour. It says to mix the salt in at the end. Comes to the same point, not a problem. So we'll mix the pecans in. It's going to be a lot of pecans in these pecan bars. And it smells wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Okay. 9x9 cake pan. The recipe does not say what size pan to cook it in, as they often don't. I'm torn now between this and a 9x13. We're gonna get a 9x13. Okay, 9x13. I'm just gonna have to figure out what to bake in a 9x9 this afternoon, since I've already got one made up. Now, in it goes. Smooth it into the corners a little bit. Now the instructions say to bake slowly for 40 minutes. And to that end, the oven is preheated to 325 degrees Fahrenheit, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so while this was baking, I was looking for another recipe to use that 9x9 pan for, and I came across a very similar recipe to this in a 1941 cookbook. Exactly the same recipe. Didn't call for pecans, just called for nuts, and it was called Butterscotch Bars. So this recipe lives on. Oh, Julie doesn't get here soon. She's not going to get any.
Like, that's my cue, right? That's my cue. Hi, friends. Hey, Glen.
Oh.
So I kind of heard you in the way that these are Butterscotch Bars? No.
These are pecan bars.
Okay.
By Mrs. Walter S. Thomson. It's a blondie. It's a blondie. Really what it is.
That's pretty good. It's not super sweet, which is nice. It's got a very meaty flavor. I imagine there's a lot of sugar in it, though.
A lot.
The texture and the way that the surface here. This is kind of a weird. Is there a corn or maple in there as well?
No.
No?
Pecan, brown sugar, flour, vanilla.
The
eggs.
brown sugar is caramelized nicely.
It's wonderful.
Nice,
Stop talking. Just keep shoving it in, Jules. This is really good. This is really good. Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon. And along the way, while researching pecan pie, I came across a bunch of these recipes that I really like that use pecans. I also realized that a lot of what we know about pecan pie, or believe we know about pecan pie, is complete garbage marketing speak. You know, I've mentioned several times I took Forest Street University, but I spent most of my adult life working in film, specifically advertising, and specifically food advertising. And so much of what we believe today as truth is really just marketing garbage, made up stories that are trying to sell us a product we believe them, we cling to them, which is unfortunate. I also realized that a couple of the books in my collection are complete frauds, absolute complete frauds. They were referenced in, so a recipe food researcher that I, know of, read their books. They did a book called, Southern Baking, or about Southern Baking. And after the book was published, they had to write a retraction because they had just grabbed onto the marketing speak of Caro, corn syrup, blindly believing it and put it in their book. They realized that it wasn't true, so they wrote a retraction in a blog post about it, walking it back, doing new research, coming to the conclusion that there was this book from 1900 published in Louisiana, in New Orleans. And I said, hey, I've got that book. So I went to the shelf, picked up the book. I've got 2 copies of the book. And I started to really sort of look at it and realized the book is a fraud. It wasn't published in 1900 in New Orleans, Louisiana, even though that's what it says on the cover. It couldn't have been published until 1960. Also in my collection is the original from the 1930s that this 1960s book was based on, and you could kind of see how the fraud was perpetuated. And this is how information gets disseminated and ends up on Wikipedia, and then believed.